Welcome back, you whiskey lovers, and today we're going to be looking at Bunnahabhain, in particularly Bunnahabhain 12-year-old for that good sherry hit. But we're also going to have a bit of a comparison with the independent bottling from Signatory. This one is a cask strength, 11 years old. Let's see if we can see that. And as you can see, I've already got that resting in the glass for later. But first we'll start off with the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. So this particular one is natural colour, non-chill filtered, and 46.3 ABV. Now it's not just sherry. It's a lot of people talk about being a sherry bomb, but it is per se, but it actually contains both sherry and bourbon casks, as well as it contains refill whiskey casks, being casks that they've already had their whiskey, or Bunnahabhain have had their whiskey in, and then they refill more whiskey into those whiskey barrels. So it's not solely a sherried whiskey, although this particular one is said to have quite a sherry influence, but gain some other flavours from those bourbon barrels, and the refills as well actually create some great flavours in a lot of whiskies as well. But let's give it a go. So colour, all naturals. It's quite a nice little colour there. On the nose I get raisins, dried fruits, some honey, some plums, a bit of it's kind of like a bit of Christmas pudding. I do get quite strong hits of vanilla as well, and maybe a few like cherries, like glazed cherries perhaps on the nose. I mean, on the nose it definitely smells like a sherry, a really, really sherry whiskey more than the bourbon influences. I do get a bit of that that bourbon florally, fruity note from the bourbon barrels as well, I think. So quite a nice nose. It's a lovely little nose actually. On the palate, it's quite a big, strong sherry hit, as you would expect. I get a bit of chocolate. There's a bit of creaminess there as well. A bit of coffee notes, like a chocolate-coated coffee bean sort of thing, and caramel. A nice, delicate, kind of hitting with that chocolate caramel creaminess. It's not really creamy. It's not really thick. It's not a super mouth coating whiskey, but you can tell that it hasn't been chill filtered to a big extent. On the finish, I get more coffee. Some vanilla, coffee beans, that goes into that bitter coffee beans. And then it turns quite dry, into a dry sort of bitter finish. Let me just try again. Now, I did have this bottle quite some time. You probably can't see because it's a dark bottle, but it's about half empty, and it has developed a bit over the time with that air in that bottle. But still, and I've always loved the nose with this whiskey and the palate with this whiskey, but it's the finish that kind of lets me down. But the finish has somewhat got better over time, I think, or maybe it's me that's got better over time. I don't know. But it does go into like only a medium finish, and it's like kind of a dry bitterness. I'm guessing from like the cask selections. Obviously, they didn't have full ability to choose the cask, going from their sherry and bourbon casks. But you can definitely tell that there was some cask influence, being that the wood was like the wood was harvested during a dry season. You got that bitter wood tannins that's come through on the whiskey, which is kind of a reason, because I love the nose and the palate, which is kind of the reason why I went ahead and bought the this one, which is a Bunnahabhain. It's 11-year-old. Let's put that aside. Independent distiller, but this one is only the sherry, first fill sherry butt, and it's cask strength, so it's at a whopping 68%. 2009, 11 years old. So because I really like the initial flavour of the Bunno 12 and the palate, but didn't like the finish, I thought I'd give this one a go. Obviously this one is just purely sherry, which for your sherry lovers, you're going to love. I mean, this is going to be a sherry bomb. So I've ended this one resting for a while. Let's have a look at the colour difference, because they're both natural colours. So the colour's pretty much bang on the same, both natural colours. Now the Signatory here, it doesn't say it's non-chill filtered on the label. But let's see what happens when we put some water in and see if we can tell whether it is chill filtered or how much of it has been chill filtered, to what degree, because there's varying degrees of chill filtering which a lot of people don't recognise. Anyway, let's get to the good stuff. The nose, obviously, like it's a 68%. It's intense, so you get this intense sherry. You get a bit of a malt, meaty funk with it as well. And then you get some raisins, some plums, some Christmas cake. Maybe there's a tiny touch of sulphur in it as well, but not overly bad. I'm just kind of picking up. It's hard being so alcoholic at 68% to hit all the notes on the nose. Okay, for a palate, we'll just take a small sip without adding water first. Ooh, without water in it, it comes in your mouth and it's like wham, raisins, sherry, and your whole mouth, it just salivates. The saliva glands just go woof, rushing in your mouth. It's quite intense. And then so your raisins, the sherry, and then this really strong sherry oak depth into it. You can really taste that the oak has really impacted on this sherry whiskey, and it's really, really lovely. And on the finish, I get it goes into this sweet sherry, a bit of honey, a very complex spice, super complex, nuts, a rich treacle, and then it hits rich treacle and a bitterness again, but a really well balanced bitterness. Anyway, let's try it with some water, because I think we're going to get a lot more of it. So what I've done in this glass here, I've put exactly I put about 22 mils in it, because I knew I was going to have a small sip of it. And I wanted to get this one at 68% down to about 50% exactly. So I think I got about 20 mils in here now. So I'm going to add 7 mils exactly of water, and that should bring us, if my calculation is correct, down to 50% per se. So, got a nice little water measure here. I'm just going to get to 7 mils. Not that you need to be this accurate, but stuffed it up. But just out of science, I want to know the different varying levels, and more to see if we could see a change in the colour of the whiskey, if it goes cloudy or not, at a certain range. So though it doesn't say it's chilled filtered or non-chilled filtered, I don't think it's very filtered. Okay, so that's 7 mil exactly. Don't know whether you guys can see that. Okay. Work that in. All things being equal, that should get us to 50.04%. See if the colour changes at that, or you know, whether we get a cloudiness in it at that point. Just let the bubbles disperse. There's no real cloudiness that I can see yet. So but that's at 50%. You wouldn't expect it at 50%. Those fat molecules are still being eaten up by the alcohol at 50%. Okay, let's see what the nose does now. So we can obviously get a lot more out of the nose without burning your nose hairs. I get obviously the raisins and the plums and the Christmas cake. I get this stewed apples, apricots, really nice and yummy, like sort of cotton candy, cherries. Look at this, interesting. I didn't expect it, but like a lemon note on it as well. So definitely increase the nose quite a bit. Okay, let's see what the palate is now. Let's hope it's developed enough. Oh, okay, that's better. So we get raisins, we get this huge sherry hit as well. Once again, still salivating, but not as much. I get icing sugar, a lovely rich oak spice sherryness, and some beautiful orange notes, or like candied orange notes as well. That is a really nice sherry hit. Beautiful. And like my whole mouth is like vibrating with that, you know, that goodness. And I can, every part of your mouth, and that's what I love, is when you take a whiskey and every part of your mouth you can taste a different flavour or spice or something like that. It tells me it's quite a complex whiskey and really well balanced as well. The finish at 50%. Delicate spice, or delicate spice. I kind of get a general sweetness of berries and nuts, and then I get some floral notes to the end as well. So as well as being super balanced, spicy oak notes, I get these floral notes and these nut notes and these sweetness of the berries, and then this little bit of bitterness as well, but not overbearing at all. That just kind of balances it all together. And this finish goes quite like it's still going for a long time. I'm going to say it's a long finish, this one at 50%. So a great whiskey. Now another thing to think about these whiskies too, they are a lot more expensive to cask strength. But if you can find a good one, you're not only getting 700 ml. In this case, I wouldn't drink it at this. I'd at least drink it at 50%, and we'll go down a bit further. And so you in the end, you're getting 900 ml of whiskey, or maybe even a litre of whiskey. So we'll talk about that more when we go into the was it worth it score as well. Let's see how much water we have to put in it if we get any colour change. So I'm going to put in another 5 ml of water, which should take me down to about the 44% level, if my calculations are correct. 5 ml. Oh, 4 ml. Let's put in 4 ml, see what happens. Okay. So if that getting any, so it's It's developing a bit of cloudiness now. If you look at the one on this side, look at the two. It's definitely got some cloudiness now. So, although it doesn't say it's non-chilled filtered on the bottle, and it may be non-chilled filtered to a point, but we don't know at what temperature it was chill filtered at. We don't know what filter elements they used. So, but because I'm now cloudy at about 54%, I can say that it hasn't been at least harshly chill filtered. Let's taste of this anyway. So all the same notes really on the nose, but less intense, as you would expect. It's a lot sweeter. Definitely gone a lot sweeter on the palate. Less of that sherry punch, but a lot sweeter. Still get the orange notes, that beautiful oak spice, but not as much. But still quite bloody nice. The finish is the more of the bitterness comes in, much like the 12-year-old came in, more of the bitterness to the end. So, on my conclusion, okay, very nice. I think we'll do was it worth it score or the scoring for them both now. So we'll start off with the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. So the scoring for the Bunnahabhain 12. I'm going to give an 89 points for this one for the nose. I'm going to give 85 points for the palate and 82 points for the finish, because the finish ruined it for me. Or didn't ruin it, but was the less exciting piece for me with the Bunnahabhain 12. But it gives a grand total of 85 points. Now, was it worth it score? You can pick up this bottle for 40 odd pounds, 120 AUD or 90 USD here or there. So was it worth it score? Look, I'm swaying between 5 or 6. I'm going to give it a 6 this time. I originally gave it a 5, but I think it's developed a little bit. Or maybe my taste has developed a bit. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, meaning that it was worth it, and it's a thumbs up. But, it would take something for me to buy it again. I'd have to be on a special or nothing else, or, but it's not one that I won't buy again. So there it is, the Bunnahabhain 12. Now this one. So this one I'll start off with the 1 out of 100 score, obviously too. So on nose on this one, I'm going to give it 92 points. It's a fabulous nose. I'm going to give it 88 points for the palate and 88 points for the finish, giving us a grand total of 89 points. So, which is a good score, but when it comes to price, what does the was it worth it score say? So this one I picked up for £82. I guess you can get in Australia 220 AUD, and I couldn't find it in the US. Now that versus, you look at 700 mils, that price, that score, you'd be wondering, but remember when I was talking about, you're actually probably more than likely going to increase the volume of this when you drink it. So it's not going to be 700 ml bottle. It's going to be at least a 900 ml to a litre worth of whiskey. So on that price, plus knowing that it's going to be 900 mils to a litre of whiskey when you actually drink it, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. And it's a thumbs up from Was It Worth a Whiskey. So it's a great idea if you're into these sherry casks as well. And any of these casks, if you get into these single casks, Bunnahabhain and a lot of the others as well, because you can really find some fantastic whiskies. And like I said, when you get in the cask strengths too, if you can water them down, you can actually increase your volume of whiskey. So from that note, I'll say goodbye and God bless, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Mm.